The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
It's time for Doing It with Style.
You've either got or you haven't got style.
If you got it, you stand out a mile.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Thanks for coming and seeing us again today on Doing It with Stiles. I have a special surprise for everybody. I got a couple of good friends here and also have their own show here at WWDB. This is Joseph Perroni.
Thanks for inviting me today.
And Heidi Mancini.
Thank you.
And what's the name of your show?
Rise Above.
Rise Above show.
Oh, okay. Didn't it used to
Every
be something
Thursday,
else?
it used to be From Grief to Relief.
Yeah, it was From Grief to Relief, and that was a good start, but then it had too much like of a negative connotation.
Gotcha.
So it's hard to sell a show with the word grief in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, they weren't, I don't think anybody was, too many people were catching the thought of as you start at a bad place, and then you start to move on to a better place. But they kind of cut out after they heard the word grief.
Yeah.
So it's
like,
really
what?
hard to sell. So Rise Above, I think, says it a little bit better.
It does. That's a lot nicer. I like it when you change it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So you got this show here at WWDB.TV called Rise Above. What else do you do?
Want to take that first?
No, I was
No?
looking at you.
Me.
I'll ask her the questions when I'm ready to ask her questions.
Oh, let's see. I'm a marriage and family therapist.
Okay.
So we do that. I've
And,
also
and they're called a therapist, not a counselor anymore? They used to be marriage and family counselors.
yeah. Well,
Or does it make a difference?
It's not a real difference. The license is MFT, so
Gotcha.
marriage and family therapy. So I do that. I'm still an intern at this point, but I'm also a personal trainer, and I've been doing that since 1988.
Wow.
Shows you I'm kind of old.
It's almost
But-
20 years, man.
20,
30.
30. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Wow, he is old.
I'm not real good at math.
So yeah, I make diets and I train people. So I've been doing that for 30 years, but I've also been competing as a bodybuilder for actually even longer than that. The first show I ever competed in was 1982, I believe. So I still do that up until 2 weeks ago. I competed. Yeah. So I'm doing that, and of course we've been doing the show for about 5 years now.
Wow, it's been that long?
Yeah, I think it's been.
Time flies when you're having fun. Man.
Yeah.
So in the competitions, is there different like categories, or are there different levels, or you just go up there and say, hey, you know, I'm a bodybuilder, I wanna compete?
Well, at the low levels, anybody can compete.
Okay.
But as you start winning and you do like national qualifiers, and you end up winning those, you can move on to where you have to be invited, or you have to have won.
Right.
To get
And I'm
into
going to
another
say,
show.
when you said the lower levels, what they call that is the amateurs.
Right.
So
just
they're
beginners.
They're beginners.
Right.
It's not the lower levels. It is.
And have not competed
but they have
before,
not competed before.
or very much.
Right. And that's what they call the amateurs. And then, of course, you got the best amateurs that are in the class they'll work their way through the amateur level, and
Right.
you'll see them start out very first beginners to then they're at the high level, and then that's the point when they will go into qualify for a national level show, and then they compete for their pro card.
But what I was trying to get at was, is there like a category for biggest arms or biggest legs or biggest glutes or biggest max? Or
It's interesting you ask that, because when I first started, it was bodybuilding. We had men's bodybuilding,
right,
women's bodybuilding,
right,
nothing else.
Okay.
It was just pure. Now we've got bikini, we've got figure, we've got fitness, we have men's physique where they only show half their body. So it's really interesting. Back when it was only bodybuilding, they did give body part trophies. You know, they would have best chest, best
So that was
back
back when Schwarzenegger was...
yeah, it was through the 70s and then through the mid to late 80s. But
Gotcha.
then they stopped that, and they want to get more people involved. So not to sound like I'm trying to hurt anybody's feelings or anything, but they have lowered the bar in order to get more and more people involved.
Right.
So what they did was they took the top-notch, the most developed people, which were the bodybuilders, and then they started making it to where you could have half a body, let's say, and they would look more towards like a nice physique, not necessarily a bodybuilding physique. So now there might be upwards of 800 people in a show.
Wow.
You know, encompassing everything from beginners all the way to very advanced, to girls in bikini type things, to very muscular men. But back when I first started, the shows only had maybe 100, 150, but they were very hardcore bodybuilders.
Right.
And so it was very different.
One of the things that I've always heard, and I don't know if it's a misconception or not, but is once you start bodybuilding or once you start developing, that you have to continue, because if you do not, you just kind of. Is that true, or I mean, is there a certain level that okay, maybe I'm not competing, but I can't go below this level of, in other words, I've got to work out, instead of working out 8 hours a day, 5 days a week,
right,
I at least have to work out twice a week, or, you know.
Well, part of it's a myth and part of it's true.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, in the beginning, the myth used to be that if you worked out a lot and you gained a lot of muscle, you would have to continue to do it because the muscle would turn to fat.
Okay.
Right? You would see these people.
Is that true, or that's just a perception?
That's a myth. That's a perception. Because what you would
Right.
see is, you would see somebody who's very muscular at the time, and they eat a lot of food. So what happens is, if they stop training, the muscles get smaller, and in turn, from eating worse food or bad food or too much of, you know, cake or muffins or whatever, they start to gain fat. So you can't turn, let's say, water into wine or wine into water, much the same way you can't turn a muscle into fat. They're separate entities.
Right, right.
So what you're seeing is a displacement. So you're seeing the muscles getting smaller and the fat cells getting bigger.
Gotcha.
And so that would be the myth of you have to keep training or else you'll turn to fat. And so that's not true. What is true is that as you come up the ladder, let's say you're training 5-6 days a week, in order to get that look, it's very hard to maintain. So that's where the issue is, where you may get smaller. You know, you may get a little more fat, because it's very, very hard to stay on such a strict diet for so long. You'll see that after shows. People, they'll go into a show and they'll have like 5% body fat. You'll see them 2 months later and they have 12% body fat. Nothing wrong with 12% body fat, but it's not 5.
I could go for 12%. That'd be great
So
for me.
it's you know, that's the hard thing for me about bodybuilding, is that it's very hard to maintain that awesomeness. Now, if you're, let's take a musician, any great musician, Eric Clapton, whoever, the talent they have is the talent they have. They can always pull out a guitar and sound awesome. But a bodybuilder, I know a lot of them that will not go to a summer pool party because they don't look the way they look during a show.
Right.
And that's the hard thing that really beats down on you mentally, actually more than physically, because it's very, very hard to maintain that look all the time.
Does this become almost an addiction for some people, for some bodybuilders, or
yes, I would say an addiction. In the bodybuilding world, they probably refuse to call it that. We call it more of like an obsession.
Yeah,
you know,
same thing.
So we try to like minimize the word,
right?
Because you have to be very dedicated. You have to be very committed.
I mean, it is basically a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week commitment.
Yes, and in some ways that can be very disheartening for people.
Sure.
In other ways, it can be great, because it actually gives meaning and purpose to everything in your life, including everything you put in your body. Every time you go to sleep, you can say, oh, no, I don't want to go out late. Got to rest my body. You know? So the 24 hours a day can be taken up with some type of personal empowerment to improve yourself, and that's a good thing for a lot of people.
So where does that become an obsession? Where is that balance between, you know, I'm doing it for this reason, as opposed to I gotta work out. I didn't get to work out today. I gotta get down to the gym. You know, to where it starts becoming a problem mentally.
Yeah, the way I see it is, at some point you have to find that balance to where the training and the dieting adds to your life.
And I think that's the key.
Right.
That it adds to your life instead of takes away from.
Exactly.
That you are so obsessed or so focused on that the rest of your life goes to shit.
One of the things,
Totally
not to
sure.
interrupt, that
Yeah,
started
no, I know
happened to
that.
me, and I know this happens with women. I'm not going to speak for men because I don't know men that way, but I know for a lot of female competitors, including myself, I started out very happy and humble with losing general weight loss and seeing my body change at 40. I started training when I was 40, so I didn't think I would be able to even get in shape at that age, but I did with Joe's, guidance in the beginning of it.
And basically, that's kind of how you met Joe, wasn't it?
That's how we met.
He was
Yeah.
your trainer.
He was
to
my
begin
trainer.
with,
But
yeah.
if he didn't help me connect to working out, and he was very low key about it. He was like, "Oh, it's more if you're only not working out any days, one day's better than nothing. We'll figure it out." That was his
Right.
famous saying back then. We'll just figure it out. So I liked that idea because I hadn't worked out in years. So I was like, he's a trainer for me because he's not pressuring me.
Right.
And at the time I was married, I had a baby. Or not a baby, but my daughter she was a young teenager, so I had responsibilities, and I'm a full-time stylist. So my hours, sometimes I worked nights, sometimes I didn't. My hours fluctuated, so I didn't want to commit because I knew if I committed to an exact, whatever, that was going to stress me out, and I know I would quit because
Right.
that's me. If it becomes too stressful,
I have that same problem.
I'm like, you quit. Yeah.
No.
But
It's
I
like,
know what I can handle.
I need to have that flexibility.
Right, and I prioritize my life in
Right.
terms of this is important right now. And at the time, my family was important, me making a living was important, but I also looked at myself in the mirror one day and I said, you don't look very well. And I was smoking at the time. I had warnings from the doctor back then in my 30s, if you can believe it, saying if you do not change your lifestyle, because I had high cholesterol, I had an irregular something with my heart, some exam they did on me, and she goes, I'm telling you. And I go, listen, I'm not even 40 yet. She goes, I don't care. She goes, people die of heart attacks and strokes way before you.
Yeah.
So that still wasn't enough, to get me going, that scare. And then, I don't know, I guess I just one day said, you should just try this, because I was also in the process of a really bad relationship with my husband, my ex-husband, and I needed to get, I don't know. But anyway, to get back to where it becomes an obsession. So I went from that, to I found myself obsessing that if I missed a gym day, I would be like, I'm getting fat right now. Like, I would be in my bed going, okay, I'm getting fat because I missed a workout, okay? And I don't want him to touch me. It gets to where, he'll put his arms around me, and I'm like, oh, God, don't touch those, please. So I realized then, this was a couple years ago, in competition, I will say, kind of turned me that way. Before I started competing, I was perfectly happy in where I was.
Right.
So for me, I would say the competition part of it, what's twisted my brain, because being up on stage, being compared to other women, and it's all about yourself and it's all about your own growth. But once you get there, you go, oh,
But
okay.
that's what the competition is for, is it not? I mean,
That's what it's
basically,
for, and that's
you're
what
being compared to everybody else on the stage,
And that's
there's
what it
people that are judging you.
But that's what it starts out as, and usually,
Yeah.
and most people, if we had a thing on this, which I'm going to do in my seminars that are coming up, if people were honest with themselves, including the men, they would say this. They would say it out loud. They would say, yes, there becomes a turning point when I cannot miss a day at the gym. It runs my life. It rules my life. I've ended relationships. I've, maybe screwed up my kids along the way because that obsession, it's like anything else. If you have your job and you're committed 24 hours to being in the office and you don't make time for your wife or kids, what do you think is going to happen?
exactly.
Your wife's going to go, see you later, Gator, because I need some fulfillment in my life. And even when you're on the same page, like Joe and I, we both have this very similar interests. We both like to do we like to help people. We're both in the fitness business, but if he's doing a show, dieting for a show, and then I come off of my show, it's like somebody's always on some kind of restriction.
Right.
So it limits our social life. It limits us as a couple. And I don't know if he feels it, as much as I do, but there's times that I just, what's the word?
Screw it, let's go get a
I
hamburger.
resent it. No, I start to resent it. I go, this is not the fun guy that I met
Right.
10 years ago, and I'm not the fun person he met, and he's even said it to me. I'd
Yeah.
rather you not compete because you're not the same person. I'm not. I'm focused. I'm driven. I have a goal, and I don't want to look like crap on stage after 16 weeks. I want to do the best I can do. It's a lot of eating, and of course we still work. We have our jobs.
Right.
Our whole lives around us. So I would have to say that it becomes, for me it was then, and I'm in the process right now. I just came off of a show in April, and I didn't do well as far as physiques go. The girls that I competed against were huge. They were, very, honestly, I'm not putting that down. If that's a look they like and they work for it, great.
When you say huge, are you talking about height, weight, muscular?
Muscle. I'm talking
Okay.
about, they have criteria that we have in bodybuilding where they'll say fitness, there's bikini, there's figure, there's fitness, there's physique women, and there's bodybuilders. Bodybuilder women are very, very muscular,
Yeah.
all over. And it's a very masculine look also.
And
So-
that's one of the things, and maybe it's just my shortcomings. I do not find that attractive at all.
I don't either. And as a woman, and I have
it's-
friends. I have friends that have those physiques. And I remember when I started training with my first female trainer, who happened to be an Olympia level competitor. And back in the day, she was, pretty ripped. And my first words to her were, I want to develop the best body I can for me. However, no insult to you at all, but I don't want to look like some of those women. I want to look muscular, but not. And she didn't take offense to it because this is a woman, and she would say this, that she went that route. And now that she's older, would say it wasn't worth it.
Right.
At the end of the day,
Right.
for all the sacrifices she made with her training, her family, her children, her own body now, as she gets older, it was not worth it. But at the time, you're living in the moment. You don't realize sometimes the consequences later. So for me, I'm working on coming out of this prep where everybody goes, when's your next show? When's your next show? I like to entertain. I've figured out that I like to entertain part of it, the posing, the routine that we get to do, and that part I like. But I'm working on the part now where I'm okay with the body that I'm in all year round. So when I get a little soft, I get, where I'm eating too many muffins or something, I can, be okay with being normal or whatever that is for a minute and not beat myself up and not let Joe touch me, not hate the clothes that I'm in, just think I'm unattractive the rest of the year, because that's what happens. You're in contest prep and you feel amazing, and then you come out of it and like a month later you're like, God, I feel like shit. I look like shit. And normal people are looking at you going, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know.
Like, what is your problem?
I know.
So I think it happens to everybody, but it's one of those things you don't talk about. It's like eating disorders. We don't talk about those either in the gym.
Right.
And probably 80% of the women in the gym have eating disorders before they started, and then they end up developing another eating disorder after. So you could go from being an anorexic to a bulimic, all full scale, or you can go from being anorexic to a full-on bodybuilder. And you go, but at what point did you go from starving yourself to now you look manly and you've given up all your female accessories to look like a man? And I guess you could be okay with that. There are more muscular women out there that tend to be more testosterone dominant.
No.
So
And
it would make sense.
I mean, I understand
But
it.
somebody like myself, to
Right.
be more estrogen dominant, quite honestly, the amount of supplementation that I would have to do to get to that level would be absurd, and it would probably kill me.
But I think
So you have to be able to be okay to say, I'm okay and I'm stable enough in my brain to say I'm not going that way. I'm not
Right.
going that far. And that's where it gets to be a little slippery slope with even the health concerns of women in fitness, because you're not only unstable at some point when you start, and I'm speaking for me, so if anybody gets offended by this is on them. It gets to a point where you have to take responsibility and say, how far am I going to take this? At what point is good enough good enough? And I'm at the point where I want to be good enough right now. And if I decide a year from now, you know what, I'm going to step into the Cutler. I want to do the classic so I can perform.
Right.
I want to be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle during that time. And I've let myself go from 10% body fat as high as 23% body fat. And then I have to diet that off, and it's not fun.
But 23% body fat is still pretty trim.
It is, but not when I'm looking at,
No, but I'm saying.
Yeah, it is.
Not in.
But that's what I'm saying.
World.
I probably, when I started training with Joe years ago, I was probably at like 50% body fat.
Yeah.
And I thought, so to come down to 23 was, is
A major accomplishment.
But I'm saying it went from being humble and appreciative with the small little steps that I was taking to develop a healthy body to now I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
So that's where it gets
Can I
a
tell you
little
what I saw?
sketchy.
When Heidi first came into the gym, it was really interesting. We had talked on the phone, and I thought, okay, I can do this. The hardest thing is coming into the gym. And she made the phone call, so you were interested. And like I said, I told her, she's like, well, do I need to train 6 days a week? I'm like, listen, how many days do you train now?
Yeah.
She said, well, I don't train at all. I said, then let's do one.
Yeah.
It was painful too.
So I was sitting there looking outside into the parking lot for the new girl coming in. I can size people up
Right.
because what they tell me is
Right.
one thing, but what I'm seeing is totally different. So she's walking through the parking lot, and don't hit me here, but your head was facing the ground, your shoulders were like this, and you were like, you were like, if there was a trap door, you would have looked for it, right? You were looking for a way out.
No.
You had no self-esteem. You didn't want to be seen, but yet you still had the courage to walk in. And then the lady at the front desk points to me and goes, "That's the guy you're with." And then your face was like, "Oh my God, no, please, not that guy."
And it was Gold's Gym, so it's one of the hardcore gyms in the town.
Right.
I can't pick like I don't know, like just a regular gym. I got to go into where all the
But see, here's where it gets to be the sweet spot. Like to me, that there's always a sweet spot with training. And after about a month, she would like have the little bag. She'd have a little hop to her step. Her head was up, shoulders back, and she wanted to come in, right? And she was there, and she would smile, and she would train and say, "What more can I do?" And she was engaged, and that part was great to watch that. Interestingly enough, though, you start to come out the other side, to where you start putting too much pressure on yourself. Then it gets to a point when she'll come in and go, "Do I look fat?" It's like, here we go. This is where it starts, you know. Then, of course, we started a relationship, and it gets to a point where you just casually do this, and it's like you'll feel the flinch, like, hold it. I wasn't flexing. You can't touch me now. I'm like, we lost the sweet spot. And I don't mean for Heidi. I think a lot of people have. I lost it a million years ago. You know? So, but I'm getting it back.
Can you get it back? That was going to be my question. Can you get
I think
it back?
you.
And if so, how?
Well, I think you can, but I think it's first thing you need is awareness, right? You have to say, okay, listen, I have a problem.
Right.
You know,
that's always the first step.
Yeah, and if you can't do that, because most people can't, by the way, because it gets really bad. Like, at its worst level, I've seen guys, like, they don't want to work normal jobs because somebody else is dictating when they're going to eat. So they get these nothing jobs. They're pulling tricks in the parking lot. They're gay for pay. Every crazy thing. They'll go and get a girl.
For girlfriends that pay all their bills.
I was just going to say that. They'll get a girlfriend who makes a lot of money so they can pay off the amount of kids that they have. And they're terrible fathers and human beings, all because they want to work out.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. In my life, I like to compare it to money. Right? Like, money is this thing I've always had a problem with because I grew up poor. So everything was like, oh, we don't have money for that. We don't have money for that. Oh, you can't eat all of that. You need some of it for tomorrow.
Right.
So there was a time when I started to make decent money for the first time. And I was horrific to be around because I lived by myself in an apartment. I would rarely turn on the air conditioner, and I would rarely turn on the heat because I would save every penny because I didn't know if I was ever going to make any more money.
Yeah.
And I would cut coupons. I wouldn't go out. I would go to the remember they used to have the dollar movie theaters? I would only go to dollar theaters. And I did this for, I didn't have cable.
Now it's called Redbox.
Redbox, yeah. It's funny. But if you were around me, you would think I was a terrible human being, but I was just a traumatized human being trying to make up for lost time.
Right. You're being frugal.
So I was trying to look at everything was money-based, but heck, if I ever paid for somebody's dinner or went out to have a good time. I mean, I remember having a date with a girl, let's say at 8 o'clock p.m. on a Friday. Somebody would call me out of the blue and say, hey, I got off of work. Can you train me at 6:30? I'd be like, my brain heard, I would like to give you money. I'm going to lay it down in the gym. It's there for you. You can pick it up if you would like.
Yeah.
So I said, called her up. Sorry, can't make it. And I would go train people. I used to train people 24 hours a day. Not that I had clients the whole time, but I would work in the morning from, let's say, 5 a.m. through the morning, through the afternoon hours. I might get done somewhere around 6 or 7. Somebody from the strip would call me and say, hey, I'm getting out at midnight. Can you train me at 1 o'clock in the morning? Absolutely. So, terrible for relationships. So in terms of money, I was obsessed. And it was terrible. Although I was living off of like $10,000 a year, and I was making, let's say, 60 for like, and I did this for like 5 years. I was able to build up. I was like, wow, look at all, I'm so awesome.
Yeah.
But I had no friends. My family hated me. I didn't like myself, but I liked my bank account because I finally was able to look at money, and then I felt like I was being a money collector. Now I'm actually starting to get to the sweet spot where actually I enjoy buying stuff. I enjoy the interaction of money. I get money and I give money. You know,
you realize that money is just a tool.
Right, it is, and it's the same thing with I'm learning and I'm using the same process to go back to your original question with the body. Why do all the training if you're afraid to wear a short sleeve shirt?
Right.
You know, I used to wear like hoodies in the summer because I didn't want people to see my arms. I'm like, oh heck, if I might not be at the right body weight, so you might not see my veins. Like, that would be a real concern of mine all the time. So I'm trying to get that middle ground, you know, to be normal. Like, I used to not be able to walk around the house with my shirt off, you know, if there was somebody there, because I always want them to see me at my best. And if I wasn't at my best, I don't want you to see me.
See, and I'm just the opposite. I don't care.
No, but that's perfect.
Hey,
well, he's gotten better now because I tell him to take his shirt off. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, what is your deal? We're home. It's us. It's not like I'm not looking at you going, or, you know. So he's coming around to taking, and I don't care. I walk around butt naked when he's not home. When he is home, I could care less. I'm like, if you're going to stare at my cellulite butt right now, go right ahead. I don't care.
But if I touch you flinch. So you need the sweet spot, right? Like that's the thing. So I get weight training and dieting is the most healthy, amazing thing you can do in your life to empower yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, all that. But once you start going over the line, it's a terrible addiction like everything else.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So with the new show, Rise Above, what is your goal for this year? What's the point of the show? Why are you doing this show? I guess is my question.
You know, a lot of reasons for me. I'm sure Heidi might have some different answers, but for me,
I'm asking you.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to be able to every week show people that no matter what situation you're in, it can be improved. So we try to get really good guests, and I can't stand infomercials. I will not do one. I'm not going to sit here and go, yeah, you're great, look at your business, look at all the money you make. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But I want to know how you got there. I want to know what events in their life that they had to overcome, the obstacles that they needed to get through in order to get where they are. I want to know about the worst day of their life and how they overcame it. These things are very exciting, and it's just, that's the part that I love about people. I don't really care. Like, you could take, not to get political, but his name just hit me in the head, like Donald Trump. Like, to me, bodybuilding and all these things are all about, it's not where you are, it's where you're going. So you can be at the very lowest of the low and improve a little, and I think you're successful.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody like Donald Trump that was gifted so much money, I don't care if you have a lot of money. You prove nothing to me. Like, it does nothing. For some people to be able to get a full-time job, to maybe get a college degree when they came from nothing, that is infinitely more spectacular to me.
Yeah, I get that.
It is. So I want to be able to show that. That's one part of the show. I also want on the show to be 100% and totally real. And I was going to say this last week because I remember when my mother died. And I walked in to do the show, and you said something to the effect of, you know, you could take the week off, and then you said, no, this is the show you need to do.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I love that you said that because we're friends, number one, but it's because I think you really get the essence of who I am, is that I am not going to hide anything. You know, I'm not going to act like I've graded everything. I want to show the pain. I want to show that what I talk about is exactly true. All of these little butterfly type people, you know, we talk about it a lot. Like, there's this happiness movement out there, which is absolutely ridiculous, that everybody needs to be happy all the time. And that's just garbage. It doesn't happen that way.
Well, if you're happy all the time, you're not going to appreciate it.
No.
That's true.
You have to
if you
feel
don't
it
have some
sometimes.
crap in your life once in a while, You're not going to appreciate the good times.
Right, and I mean, it also means that you're overlooking a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have a psychological problem, right? You got magical thinking if you think that everything's great.
Or you're smoking
They
too
call
much.
those
Yeah.
unicorns. They call them the unicorns. They're the little just to be happy unicorns that bounce around.
Well, I've listened to every one of your shows. I've actually watched every one of your shows since you've been over here, and the ones before as well. And it's interesting because social media is a big thing right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, has been and will be for a while. Who knows whether it's good or bad. But these things pop up on my Facebook page that I immediately think of you and Heidi. And I think I sent you one yesterday or this morning. And it was because it's a subject that you had talked about on one of the previous shows. And it was about that children who grow up in a household where the parents are fighting,
Right.
have the same experience that, or it has the same effect on children's brains as combat does on soldiers.
True.
And so that's the impact that you've had on me, is in seeing this stuff pop up, and I immediately share it with you. And it's
I did
because
see that. Thank you.
And some of it is like, oh, Joe would love this, it would be a good subject for the show, and you know, so I share that stuff. And it is you know, and I've told you this a number of times. The first time I met you, and I hadn't heard your show, and I thought, oh Christ, this, you know, here we go. You know, I ain't real smart, but I can lift heavy things. And then the first time I listened to your show, I was blown away.
Thank
I
you.
mean, it was just absolutely, the two of you do a really, really good job, especially when you get to playing off of each other.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
dynamic that you have. And sometimes I think people in the audience are going, oh shit. You know,
I want that,
Yeah.
because I am not going to cover up anything.
but let me
beings
ask you this:
talk.
once you leave here, do you get slapped?
Not physically, but emotionally, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm never going to lie.
Yeah.
When you're a human being and you care about another person, not everything you say is going to make the other person feel good, and when they say something, you're going to get hurt. That's just the way it is. And I actually like that, because that's what real life is.
But do you like it when somebody does it to you?
I don't, but I do understand that it's life, and
Right.
I do enjoy that somebody has the ability to give me their opinion.
Right.
Again, going back to the childhood trauma,
Exactly.
this is why part of our show is, and I always say, we draw emotional blood, because I need that. I want that. Like last week, you saw it. Listen, I lost a bodybuilding show. I felt really down. I felt like somebody kicked me in the stomach.
And
It
that
hurt.
surprised the shit out of me. And I'll tell you why. Because I have heard you talk to other people about situations like that. And I would have thought that you, of all people, would not have had that reaction. That you
Right.
would have said something like, okay, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to go do this, or I do this. I did everything I could. I did
Right.
the best that I could do, and for whatever reason at this particular time, it wasn't the right thing.
Right.
Now maybe next time it'll be completely different, but at that particular time, so I was kind of surprised when
No,
you started
and it's
talking
funny
about-
because you
When
said,
we were
I
in the
love that-
hotel room too, I said to him, because when he was on stage and they moved him, I was like, oh, this is not good, because I knew they put him in not, and you know, he was stuck in call outs, and I was like, this is not good. So we went back to the hotel room, and I remember, like, it's like when you have a kid and you know your child's, you're not my child,
Yeah.
but they're disappointed, and I know how disappointed he
lost
was.
the big game.
Yeah,
Or
and
they
you don't know
just
what to
lost the
say.
game.
Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to him to make him feel better. So
Right.
with the way I handle things, and this is where communication gets screwed up in relationship, is when I'm feeling like that, I don't really want you talking to me. I'm the type of person
Yeah,
that just let me go sit in my corner for a minute, let me figure this out, and then I will come out and hopefully be okay. So I said, I don't want to make him feel bad by saying something maybe I shouldn't say, because, you know, when you're trying to put something in a good place, you might say, well, you know, this looked good, but... And then before you know it, you go on the spiral of, you know, whatever, putting your foot in your mouth. And I just decided that I wasn't going to say anything. And I went and I got a coffee, and I went and I did my cardio. And I came back to the room, and he was still funky. And he was talking about the night show. And I said, you know what? I don't want this whole weekend to be bad.
Yeah.
So I said, what do you tell your clients? And what have you told me? So you're not really doing what you have said.
But
and that's all I said to him. And I said, you know what? He's going to get mad. He might not get mad, but I don't give a shit, because you know what? This is something that we talk about. It's something we all have to handle, and I don't want. You're not going to ruin the whole weekend away, because we don't get away that often.
But I think we all do that.
And we all do.
And it's like it's easy to look out there and see all the shit that's going on and say, well, you know, don't worry about this, or I see what you did wrong there, and blah blah blah. But you put a mirror up in front of us there, and it's like,
yeah.
Then we can't see that shit. So I mean, I understand that.
It's tough, but that's why I wanted to play it out, because I want to be human. On a cognitive level, you're right. But and I said all the said, right? I'm like, okay, I did everything I could do. I can change this to make it better. It's not that bad. There's judges, got all that. But that's the first part. That's the outer layer.
Right.
The part
and
that I was
just thank God that you're not standing up in front of Simon Cowell.
He's actually funny.
No,
but here's the fighting part, though, right? Like, I get all that, and to be honest, like I said, my self-esteem was good. I felt good.
Right.
It's not a problem. It's the part that I bring up is the childhood trauma stuff of, okay, if you're a perfect child, your parents will stop yelling at each other. If you're a perfect kid, your father will want to stay home.
Right.
And so when you know this, it's like that's the inner hurt that you get,
Sure.
because it's like, hold it, I just lost. Am I still lovable?
Right.
Because I've been taught at a young age that maybe I'm not. You know, when things go wrong, I'm like, okay, people leave. So that's the childhood trauma. Now, psychologically, I know that that's not the way it is, but that inner hurt, you go, okay, and that's why I wanted to play it out for people, so they understand that even though I can do this, you know, that's that first layer, it doesn't mean that I don't get hurt, and it doesn't mean that I don't overcome it, because I do. Like Heidi said, I didn't want all the, oh, I feel bad for you. I don't want any of that. I need the time to feel pain. When you don't do as well as you want to, it's totally appropriate not to feel great.
Yeah.
I need to feel disappointed. That's the stimulus that I get to say, okay, back to the drawing board. I'm going to fix this.
Yeah. And I get that, because with what I do here at the station is you know, I'll take a show that's an hour long, and I've got 3 to 4 hours of editing and uploading to, you know, to get that on our site and everything. And I will sometimes I spend a little extra time by different things, and I think, this looks bitchin', this is awesome. And then I'll have the show host come back and say, hey, I didn't like that, you know, can you not do that? and it really, it does, it hurts, but I also realize, well, wait a minute, they're looking at this differently than I am.
Right.
They're seeing something completely different than I'm seeing. And you know, they don't have the comprehension of what it took to get to that. They don't appreciate that, but that doesn't matter.
No, it
because
actually
this
doesn't.
this is theirs.
Right.
I mean, and they're the ones that have to, you know, sit in front of the camera and you know, look good and make people, you know, want to sponsor their show and shit like that. So I even though it hurts, I really do appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, it makes you better.
It does. And we used to have, when I first got started over here, we had a guy named Don Barnhart who was the biggest pain in the ass I've ever worked with. I mean, literally. I hated this guy, and I loved him. He had been a director and a stage manager. He was in the business, and had worked on shows like Mork and Mindy, Saved by the Bell, and on some movies, and you know, was really new as shit. And so when I was first getting started, when we were over in the other building, he was always trying to help me get better. And it would be, you know, I mean, we had some discussions and arguments, but it was really cool because after the show we'd go and have lunch, you know, and then critique it. But I used to have to tell him, hey, this isn't NBC or ABC or CBS, you know, there's 2 of us here, and that's it, man. I don't have 10 guys running around, you know, with cameras and looking at this and looking at that. You know, you're the show host. Stop being a director. And once he got the concept of what we were doing and how we were doing it here, then his approach to helping me became different. And it was cool, and I love the guy. I mean, he did so much to help me develop what we're doing here and to figure out how to do it right and how to do it, a little better every time. So yeah, I get that. So you're always striving.
Always,
to get a little better.
and I like the stress.
Yeah.
I like anxiety. I like resistance. That's how you get more powerful. Always. I don't want it to be easy. I used to love that. We used to, a long time ago, play football games against like the rich teams.
Yeah.
I was like, this is great. Just smack them in the head a couple times, they'll cry.
Yeah.
And game's over.
I know.
If you can get up on them a couple of points, you quit.
Yeah.
That's just the way life is, right? Like when people that have had it too easy.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I'm like, yeah, business is like that too, right?
Yep.
Like you want somebody that's been through some stuff.
Yeah, of course.
I think I have some clout with people as a therapist because first of all, I don't look like a therapist. Second of all, I compete and I lay it out on the line all the time, and I lose. I mean, I win too, but I know what it's like. It's all those people sitting in the audience, just going, yeah, he should have done that, she should have done that. That does nothing. Get in the ring, do some work. Get hit a little bit. They want to see what you got.
Okay, Heidi, I have a question for you. You didn't think you were going to get out that easy, did you?
No.
Okay. What's the one thing that you want everyone to know about Joe? Just one thing. You can only pick one thing, and you think everybody needs to know this about Joe.
Uh-oh.
Can it be like just one thing? Just
one thing. What's the most important thing? What is it that you want people to know about Joe more than anything else?
That they don't already know. I would say that he's a big heart. He has a big heart. He's very caring, and I think he said this before. He goes, I don't understand why people are scared of me. Because like in the gym, I go, Joe, you're kind of intimidating. So first impressions of him, they don't realize that when they get to know him, and hopefully they'll get to know him like I know him, but when they get to know him, that he's got a big heart. He leaves with that first. Yeah. So.
All right, Joe. What's the one thing you want everyone to know about Heidi?
Oh, let's see.
Oops.
Yeah, I don't want to sound boring, but it's. No matter what Heidi does, there's a thing of love and caring for other people. So much so that she may even give up parts of herself.
Compassion?
Well, I mean, so much empathy and compassion for other people and trying to make everybody around her so happy that there's times when it's, and I don't know if people would know this, but she leaves herself, let's say, a little bit empty because she gives so much. And then she, of course, as a human, wants back.
Sure.
Because we all do.
Of course.
But people see her as smiling all the time and happy, and they probably think things are good. She doesn't need that. Yeah. And so she may feel, I know she feels a little bit ignored sometimes, and a little bit, put on the back burner, so to speak, whether it's from her family or sometimes me or people. Like, she has more to give, people will take. They take, and she is more than willing to give. So again, she leads with her heart.
Yeah.
Can we throw in just about your first job? Like, look, they see Heidi, right? She's this leader, right? She runs the show. She does all this stuff. She's been confident, hairdresser for a lot of years, right? 30 years. You're going to be doing these workshops and all that, but it's still the same person that. What was your first job that you liked so much?
Oh, I was a housekeeper. I worked in a nursing home.
Really?
And I took care of old people.
Wow.
And I remember getting that job. My friend said, I was 17. I graduated at 17. I didn't have a job. I lasted 2 weeks at McDonald's. And I said, I can't. I quit. My manager went off on me because I couldn't do a grill order. And she was this big fat lady. And I just remember looking at her going, I quit. This job's not worth it. And I walked out.
Yeah.
So my neighbor lady friend said, they're hiring at Beechwood. It was a nursing home, retirement home, 3-tier place. And she goes, they need a housekeeper. And I'm like, I can clean my house, so
Yeah.
why couldn't I clean
Yeah.
there? So I took the job, and I started out in the nursing home, which was all really sick old people. And I remember going in for my 90-day probationary review, and my boss says, we really like you, you're a hard worker, we want to keep you on, you're going to get a raise. But when I said, you know what, I don't want to keep this position because I can't handle the people.
Oh, it's my ex-wife worked in
and I mean, not handle them because they were old, and
Yeah.
I couldn't handle seeing the sickness every day.
Yeah, and that, she used to come home in tears.
And they would,
and I finally had to say, you know, get the hell out of there.
But he said to me, he was a kind man. He goes, well, here's the thing. He goes, I think that under the circumstances, you've handled those situations well. And at 17, you know, I got an old man on the elevator with me. God knows what he's going to do, and I'm, diverting whatever I'm doing to talk him down or whatever. And he put me in a residential part of the building, which was, I was their little helper. I used to carry their laundry. I had so many rooms to clean a day because there was like 37 suites. Right. And I just remember getting so much out of it, and looking back on it at the time, I remember going for my first loan, and the guy in the bank, he goes, housekeeper, is that an occupation? I go, yeah. There's my ID number right there. Like people were so stupid, like he didn't even know that was a legit job. And I said, yeah, it's a really good job and I like it. And I stayed there for 6 years, and I went to beauty school. During that time, I used to sleep in the locker room at the nursing home in between, because I would get done at my shift was 7 to 3, and I didn't have beauty school until 6 at night. So I used to bring my dinner, and I would sleep. I'd take a nap, get ready, and go to my beauty school. But I remember when I graduated, they wanted me to work in the salon, and I said no, I need to get out. But the reason I quit that job, it wasn't to be a hairdresser, which I really wanted to do. It was because I really loved working with those old people, and I liked, the money was good, I won't lie, and I got benefits, but it taught me a lot, and I think that's helped me a lot in my hairdressing. To deal with the different personalities, and just when you said, when people say things to you that you don't agree with, I'll do an amazing haircut or a color over the years, and you get that client that goes, I hate it. It's like they might as well just stab you in your gut. But you know what? You go, okay, well, what can we do to fix it? And I learned that kind of compassion and empathy in the nursing home too, because you can't go off on an old person if they're I've seen old people fall, break something right in front of me, and there's nothing I can do but stand there. I found dead people in their rooms at a young age. I was like 19 years old, and walk in, one of my favorite clients was dead. So those were things I was exposed to at a very young age. But it started out as, I'll take the job, I need to work. Not realizing what I was getting into and liking. Exactly. So when I tell my clients that now, they'll say, what was your first job? And I said, I scrubbed toilets and took care of old people. And they're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did. So they view me as, I don't know what. But I'm like, I've done some hard work, and I don't mind working hard. I really don't.
So you guys a couple of times have mentioned these workshops. So what's that all about? What are you talking about?
What we want to do as part of the Rise Above show is we want to start doing workshops for couples. And that would be something that Joe and I would be doing together. Community stuff, we still want to represent and do workshops to represent the counseling, the community stuff. And then I've wanted to, for a long time, to get off in a little direction on my own, which is still part of the Rise Above show. It's all encompasses what we're already doing here. But to go out into the community and be more of a helper for women, to help women help each other. Get the skills they need, or just a good support system without putting things down, putting men down. So I'm working on a format right now with Irma. We've got some stuff going so that I can have a format that I can go off of. But the program is going to be me. There's a lot of coaching that's going on right now, and I think it's great that there's so many people out there that want to be helpers. I think it's great if they put themselves out there to do good, whatever it might be, and we all attract certain people into our lives. My thing is, I just want to do the work part of getting better. The whole, I told Joe, the unicorn thing, where it's kind of self-indulging when we talk and we tell people to be happy. Well, they already know that, so let's move on from that, and let's see what can we do to maybe bring a little happiness into your life, because people have hardships, and it's hard for them to look past that. When you say be happy or go get a job, if you're a woman that doesn't have any skills, you don't have the right wardrobe, your hair is a mess, you don't have access to makeup. And, you know, again, we live in a world where people say it doesn't matter, but yes, it does. When you go on an interview, you got to be presentable. Yep. And I want to bring women in the community together. And there's women doing this too. I'm not the first to do this. Right. To give the services, let them know what the services are, or if we can't get the access to those services, I'll have enough women that have the skills to do everything, that as a group we'll be able to help the woman from the outside into the inside. And it's just, it started for me too with the bodybuilding thing, because I realized there was a need too for groups for women in fitness because of the mindset, you know, and kind of get in there. And then I want to go into the schools and talk to, you know, the young girls. And I've been invited, and once I get my program together to go in the schools, they want me, you know, the fitness end of it, because I have the fitness, I have limited nutrition, I'm know enough to be able to guide somebody, and then of course I have access to, you know, experts in the field.
I mean, Christ, all you got to do is say, don't eat fast food.
No, but I think
and you know more than most people.
But you know what I think is important? I think it's important for other women and young girls, because to see a positive role model, because a lot of women, we limit ourselves, that we can't do certain things, or we can't look a certain way. And no matter what you look like, whatever body size you are, or whatever look you have, every woman's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you got to stop going with what's the latest model look like, because I'll be honest with you, that latest model has so much makeup on her, and now with all the stuff we can do with the photo, I can Photoshop my own pictures. I look amazing when I do my pictures, you know. And so that's not real. I mean, none of that's real. So it's just basically, we're going to call it, can I say the name out loud?
Yeah, sure.
It's going to be called, I'm a self-esteem advocate. I don't want to be called a coach.
I like that.
You know, I don't.
Yeah, no, that's
great.
great.
And it's the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
So you had some input. I'm going to start to cry. I hate it. But anyway, I've loved my whole life. I've loved butterflies. Like, I've loved butterflies.
Right.
Why, I don't know. I just love them because they're beautiful, and I'm artsy. So anything that's splashy, you know, color, my eye goes to it. So I said I'd like to call it something like the butterfly effect, or, you know, something with a girl holding a butterfly. I want the woman to be there. And he said, do you know what the butterfly effect is? And I said, no, because of there was a movie out, too.
Right.
And I said, no. And basically, he explained it that, you know, one butterfly will flap its wings. And then before you know it, if there's other butterflies in the area, they start flapping, and they all form a community. So the idea behind my mentoring, or my advocacy for women, is that.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's get this woman over here that wants to do some good, a woman over here that wants to do good. Let's form a community of all these women with what they can do, and let's help each other grow and get away from the Oprah mentality. I have nothing against her personally.
No, I understand.
But even in, you know, the salon, I hear it a lot. You know, men are, I'm having a baby, and I don't care. I don't need him around me. Yes, you know what? Who cares? I don't care what you need. Your child needs a baby, a baby daddy. They call it baby daddies now, but I mean, it's more than a baby daddy. But just trying to figure something out and go about it a different way, and see if I can make a difference in that way. But it's still rise above, you know. But it's me getting into the female community, and then if I need to, I'll bring Joe in from the psychological end of it and the therapist part of it to say, okay, this is what we've been working on. Now give us your whatever on your take on this, and then they can hear it from a psychological and a therapist view, rather than what we read in Cosmopolitan and what we see on TV.
So you're not going to let him take his shirt off in the workshops?
Well, he could if he wants. I'll charge the ladies, though. I'll say there's a charge. You want to see him with his clothes off, you got to pay me.
Here, I have a bunch of singles.
I have a bunch of singles. Here you go.
That sounds awesome. I think that's something that should take off pretty well.
And I need to do it. I need to do it for me. I've come to a point in my life where, you know, Joe talks, he has his legacy. He wants to have a legacy. I have a daughter who's my legacy.
Right.
But I also have me. And I just feel at times I'm not doing enough. And I love the show, and I love everything it does, but I'm not going to be able to get women to open up with a man in the room.
Yeah.
So
no.
I've got to.
I agree with that.
You know, I've got to kind of go out there and do my thing.
Just like you don't get men to open up if there are the women in the room either. So
maybe later, like if he met with a bunch of men and they talked to us and they said, "Here's my girlfriend or my friend or whatever he wanted to introduce me as," she's going to give us a female perspective now of what happens in the female world, so that men have a better understanding. Because we all know that women and men, I don't care how long we live on this planet, we are on different sides of the thought. And
thank God for that.
And thank God. But at the same time, men should be appreciated for that, just like women should be appreciated for whatever we have. And too many times today, and I've seen this a lot, men are being put down a lot. They're lacking their masculinity. They're losing masculinity because I think they feel they have no power in our society anymore because, you know, as we know, women are taking over the workforce. We're able to have children and take care of our own children now. But I also think that's why there's a lot of bitchy women walking around, because deep down they need a man.
Yeah.
You need the tool. I mean, as much as we want it, and it's not just about sex, but I'm just saying you need that man in your life.
I mean, it's the whole concept of yin and yang. I mean, that's, you know.
Like, I love when he, I'm independent.
Yeah.
And I have my own thoughts, and I want to do my own thing, and I'm very prideful too. I don't like help. I don't want to ask for help, because to me that's weakness. But I have to say, I still want a man in my life. I want him to pick up the slack, or even if he just hugs me, or he takes over. He says, you know what, what are you doing? What's going on? I want him to be there for me, be the rock for me. Although I want to be the rock, I want him to be the stronger rock. I expect that from him. So when all the chips are down, I expect him to step up. And, you know, and even when he didn't do good in his show, I didn't, you know, he tells people this story, and it makes it sound sensitive.
Let me.
He did great in his show.
Stop you there.
But let me say one thing about his injury in his leg. He said on the air to somebody that, you know, I didn't make a big deal about it and this and that, and I got a little, because I didn't want people to think I didn't care.
Yeah.
I care, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to baby you right now, because that's part of it. So suck it up, Buttercup. Whatever.
No, and I agree with that. But I think that and this, I'm taking a page out of your book, because I see that you have both done it, and that is, you have both said on the air, I got it on tape,
yes,
that you didn't do well, and that is not what happened. You did the best you could, but from their perspective, it wasn't what they were looking for that
right.
day.
No, that's
so
more
you
true.
cannot say that you didn't do well.
Right. No,
that's just
he did well. He did really well.
You did. I mean, Christ, I couldn't do it. You know, I saw some of the pictures, and I'm going, holy shit! You know what it took to get there, and that, you know, regardless of whether that is, you'll never go beyond that, or you'll go way beyond it. The fact that you got from here to there is fucking awesome.
Thank you.
Anyway, never mind. That's my rant for the day. And we're going to have to wrap this up as much as... Yeah, I could spend another couple hours here.
Let's do it. What show you got on at 2 o'clock?
Nothing, but...
it was going to be us.
Okay. Hey, and I want to remind everybody, again this Saturday, I'll be down at Borders, the bookstore, Barnes & Noble, right?
Oh, you're near my salon.
On Rainbow.
Oh, you're at the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Noble.
That's Barnes
There's no
Noble
more at the other store.
On Rainbow, yeah. Doing a book signing. So all of you come down there, and if you buy any book in the store, I'll sign it for you. So.
How nice. I think we need to go down there.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Joe?
All right.
Books.
So anyway, thanks for joining us, and Joe, thank you, sir.
Thanks for
coming
inviting us.
in.
It was great. Thank you.
Heidi,
Thank you for having us.
Good luck with the new venture, and thank you for having your show here. It really does. It's one of the highlights that it's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing here, is so that we can have things like this for the community. So that's it. Like I always say, if you're going to do it with Stiles. Bye.
It's time for Doing It with Style.
You've either got or you haven't got style.
If you got it, you stand out of mine.